All right, so today we're we're going to try to wrap our heads around something pretty mind-bending.
Okay.
Social memory complexes.
Yeah.
From the law of one material.
Right.
You with me?
I'm with you.
Okay. These are like these fascinating entities,
Yeah.
kind of a whole new level of social evolution, right?
Supposedly.
What we want to do today is we really want to unpack how they actually work, like the mechanics of these things.
Right.
So if you've ever wondered what it means for like a whole civilization to merge into this single unified consciousness,
Yeah.
well, this is the deep dive for you.
Yeah, it's a big leap.
Yeah.
It's a real big leap from, thinking about individual minds to thinking about this collective entity where, everyone's connected and sharing memories and experiences as one.
It almost sounds like science fiction.
Right.
But according to the law of one, it's not.
Right.
These social memory complexes are a real stage of spiritual evolution for civilizations out there in the cosmos.
They are, and they actually operate in very different ways depending on their core orientation.
Okay.
Whether they're focused on service to others or service to self.
Right, STO or STS.
Exactly.
So you've got like the Confederation of Planets.
Yeah.
It's like the classic example of an STO social memory complex.
Right.
They're all about unity and cooperation and helping others evolve.
Right. Exactly, yeah. The Confederation is kind of like a cosmic, think of it like the United Nations.
Uh-huh.
But instead of individual planets, it's entire civilizations that are working together
Right.
for the common good. And they're known for their guidance and protection of less developed planets.
Right.
Always respecting free will, of course.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so that's kind of like the good guy version.
Right.
What about the STS side?
Right.
I know the Orion Group often gets mentioned as kind of like the bad guy social memory complex.
Yeah, the Orion Group is a prime example
Okay.
of an STS complex. They're motivated by power, control, and dominance.
Mhm.
And so think of it like a very highly organized hierarchical structure
Right.
where individuals are constantly vying for power, even within the complex itself.
Right.
It creates this kind of internal tension that then drives them to seek control over others.
So it's not just about individual beings being selfish.
Yeah.
It's baked into the very structure of how these negative social memory complexes function.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it creates this cycle where they're always seeking to expand their influence, often through manipulation and control,
Right.
which is why they clash so much with STO groups like the Confederation.
Yeah, it's pretty intense stuff.
Yeah.
So how does a civilization even make this leap from, a bunch of individuals
Yeah.
to this unified collective? Is it like a switch flips or is it more of a gradual process?
It's definitely not an overnight change.
Right.
According to Ra, it's a natural progression.
Mhm.
That happens when a civilization reaches kind of a critical mass of spiritual development.
Okay.
So it's a gradual process of individuals deepening their connections with each other, developing their telepathic abilities,
Okay.
starting to share a unified sense of purpose.
So they're slowly tuning into the same frequency.
Right.
It's like a bunch of instruments warming up for a cosmic orchestra or something.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's about aligning their vibrations through empathy and understanding.
Okay.
And eventually they reach a point where the individual consciousnesses begin to merge,
Uh-huh.
forming this unified entity with shared memories and experiences.
That's pretty wild. But what about individual free will? Does everyone have to be on board with this merging process? Or can you have holdouts?
It's a good question. Ra suggests that while it's a natural progression, it's still ultimately a choice. It's about aligning your individual will with the higher will of the group.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So it's not like you lose your sense of self, but you're choosing to become part of something bigger.
Exactly. It's like a step up in evolution. You're
Right.
transcending the limitations of the individual ego. Okay.
But you're still retaining that spark of individuality within the larger whole.
Okay. But let's get into like the nitty-gritty here. What does this merging process actually look like? How do individual minds actually come together to form this collective consciousness?
Well, the law of one describes it as kind of a gradual increase in telepathic communication and empathy.
Okay.
As individuals evolve spiritually, they become more sensitive to each other's thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
It's like they start to perceive reality from multiple perspectives simultaneously.
So it's like taking empathy to a whole new level.
Right.
Instead of just understanding someone's feelings, you're actually experiencing them as your own.
Exactly. And this shared empathy, this heightened awareness of the other, becomes the foundation for a truly unified consciousness.
Wow.
It's about moving beyond the illusion of separation and recognizing the inherent interconnectedness of all beings. That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
So if this merging process is happening gradually, is it possible for it to start happening here on Earth? I mean, could humanity be on the path to forming a social memory complex?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay,
Although we are, I would say, likely a long way off from that level of spiritual development.
okay.
Remember, forming a social memory complex, this isn't just about technological advancement. It requires a fundamental shift in consciousness, a collective embracing of unity and love.
So we might need a bit more time to work on our empathy skills
Right.
before we start merging minds with the entire planet.
Yeah. And there are also some pretty significant challenges that come with forming a social memory complex,
Okay,
even for those civilizations that have achieved a high level of spiritual development.
okay. I'm all ears. What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Well, imagine trying to integrate the thoughts, the feelings, and desires of millions, billions, maybe trillions of individuals
Right.
into a single harmonious whole. It's a monumental task that requires immense spiritual maturity and wisdom.
Yeah, I can see how that could get messy pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So what happens if a civilization isn't quite ready to handle that level of integration? What if there's still a lot of unresolved conflicts or ego issues?
That's where things can get dangerous.
Okay.
Premature merging can lead to internal chaos and instability within the complex.
Right.
It's like trying to force together puzzle pieces that don't fit. It's going to create friction and disharmony.
So it's not just about merging, it's about merging in a way that's healthy and balanced.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of spiritual mass becomes really important.
Okay, you mentioned spiritual mass earlier. I'm still a bit fuzzy on what that actually means. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, think of spiritual mass as the collective spiritual energy of the complex.
Okay.
So it's a measure of their alignment with their chosen path, whether it's service to others or service to self.
That's like the complex's overall spiritual weight.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And the greater their spiritual mass, the more stable and harmonious the complex becomes. It's like a spiritual foundation that supports their unity.
So if a civilization wants to form a healthy, sustainable social memory complex, they need to build up their spiritual mass first.
Precisely. And this involves making choices that are in alignment with their chosen path. For STO complexes, this means focusing on love, compassion, and service to others.
Okay.
For STS complexes, it means pursuing power, control, and domination.
Okay, so it's like any kind of growth. You need a strong foundation to build upon. But here's what I'm wondering. If a social memory complex is essentially one giant entity, how does it actually function? How does it make decisions? How does it interact with the world around it?
That's where things get really mind-blowing.
Okay, good.
Because according to the law of one, the structure of a social memory complex is quite unlike anything we can easily grasp.
Okay.
From our third density perspective, they operate in higher dimensions,
Okay.
beyond our typical understanding of space and time.
Okay, so I'm ready to have my mind blown. Tell me more about this higher dimensional structure.
Well, remember how we were talking about that tesseract structure earlier?
Yeah, the four-dimensional cube. I'm still trying to visualize that one.
It's a challenge for sure, trying to imagine something beyond our three-dimensional perception.
Right.
But think of the tesseract as a network,
Okay.
a kind of cosmic internet that connects all the individual minds within the complex.
So instead of sending emails or text messages, they're communicating directly through this Tesseract network.
You could say that, but it's more than just communication. It's a complete merging of awareness,
Okay.
a shared experience of reality that transcends the limitations of individual perception.
So I'm understanding this correctly. Every member of the complex has access to the thoughts, feelings, and memories of every other member.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
having access to this vast, interconnected library of experiences,
Right.
all available instantaneously.
That's incredible. It must be like having a super-powered brain,
Yeah.
capable of processing information and making decisions on a scale we can barely comprehend.
Right, and because they're operating in higher dimensions, they can perceive patterns and connections that are invisible to us.
Right.
They have a much broader understanding of cause and effect, allowing them to make decisions that are aligned with the long-term well-being of the complex as a whole.
Okay, now I'm really starting to see the potential of these social memory complexes.
Yeah.
Like if humanity could achieve this level of unity and understanding, imagine what we could accomplish.
The possibilities are truly mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But achieving that level of unity requires more than just merging minds. It requires a deep commitment to love, compassion, and service to others.
So it's not just about the mechanics of merging, it's about the ethical framework that guides the complex.
Exactly. And that's something we'll explore further in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at the different paths of evolution for social memory complexes,
Okay.
the role of wanderers, and what this all means for humanity's future.
Sounds fascinating. Can't wait to learn more. All right, so we've been digging into the mechanics of these social memory complexes, like how they form and the challenges they face. But there's another piece of this puzzle. I'm really curious about the role of wanderers.
Ah, yes, wanderers, those enigmatic souls that venture from higher densities to incarnate into third density worlds like ours.
Yeah. It's always intrigued me, like what motivates them to leave these advanced civilizations and come down here to a place like Earth with all its, well, density.
It's a profound act of service, really driven by a deep compassion for those who are still grappling with the challenges of third density. Imagine experiencing the unity and the harmony of a social memory complex, and then choosing to leave that behind to assist others in their journey.
It's a level of selflessness that's like hard to fathom.
Yeah.
So what exactly do these wanderers do once they're here? Do they all become like spiritual teachers or gurus guiding us toward enlightenment?
Not necessarily. While some wanderers do take on those roles, many others live seemingly ordinary lives,
Okay.
working behind the scenes to subtly raise the vibration of the planet.
So they're like undercover agents for the forces of light.
You could say that. They might be artists, musicians, healers, scientists, anyone who is using their talents to bring more beauty, love, and understanding into the world.
That makes sense. But how does their presence actually help us like evolve toward becoming a social memory complex ourselves? Is it just about like spreading good vibes? Or is there something more specific that they're doing?
Remember how we talked about that merging process?
Uh-huh.
How it involves that increased telepathic communication and empathy?
Right.
Well, wanderers, coming from densities where these abilities are more common, they can actually act as catalysts for this process
Oh, okay.
in third density populations.
They're like living examples of what's possible,
Right.
helping us activate our own kind of latent potential.
Exactly. Their presence can help awaken those kind of dormant abilities within us,
Right.
making us more receptive to telepathic connections and deepening our capacity for empathy.
That's pretty amazing. It's like
Yeah.
they're holding up a mirror, reflecting back to us our own potential for unity and interconnectedness.
Precisely. And as more and more people awaken to these possibilities, it can create a ripple effect,
Yeah.
gradually shifting the collective consciousness towards a greater understanding of oneness.
Yeah. I'm also wondering about the free will aspect, though. We talked about how forming a social memory complex is ultimately a choice.
Right?
So are wanderers trying to influence our choice
Right.
to like steer us toward that path?
Yeah, it's an important question. And the law of one emphasizes that wanderers, just like all beings, are bound by the law of free will. They can offer guidance and support, but they cannot impose their will upon us.
So they're more like cosmic gardeners, like planting seeds of possibility, but allowing us to choose whether or not those seeds actually take root.
That's a beautiful way to put it. They nurture the soil, they provide sunlight and water, but the growth itself has to come from within.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have to admit, though, this whole concept of social memory complexes and wanderers is a lot to take in.
Right.
It's both inspiring and a bit overwhelming to think about the scale of this cosmic evolution.
It is a vast and complex subject, to be sure, but even contemplating these ideas can have a profound impact on our own individual journeys.
Uh-huh.
It can help us to shift our perspective, to recognize our interconnectedness, and to make choices that are more aligned with love and unity.
So even if humanity is a long way off from forming a social memory complex, understanding these concepts can still benefit us right now.
Absolutely. It can inspire us to cultivate greater empathy,
Uh-huh.
to develop our own telepathic abilities, and to make choices that contribute to the collective awakening of humanity.
I like that contributing to the collective awakening. It makes this whole journey feel kind of less daunting and more like a shared endeavor. But I'm also wondering, are there different types of wanderers?
Okay.
Do they all come from STO complexes like the Confederation? Or are there wanderers from STS groups like the Orion Group as well?
That's a fascinating question,
Yeah.
and one that has sparked much debate among those who study the law of one.
Right.
Raw does suggest that there are wanderers from both positive and negative orientations.
Okay, wait a minute. So that means there could be beings from the Orion Group walking among us right now.
It's a possibility.
Wow.
Although it's important to remember that even wanderers from STS backgrounds can still choose to serve the light.
Oh, okay. So even though they come from a complex that's all about power and control, they can still break free from that conditioning and choose a different path.
Exactly. Free will is paramount. Even beings who have been immersed in STS ideologies can have a change of heart, a
Okay.
reawakening to their true nature as beings of love and light.
That gives me hope. So how can we tell the difference between STO and STS wanderers? Are there any clues or signs we can look for?
It's not always easy to discern, as wanderers often blend seamlessly into society, but one key difference lies in their motivations and actions.
Okay, so what would those differences look like in practice?
Well, STO wanderers are typically driven by a genuine desire to serve others, to contribute to the well-being of humanity and the planet.
Okay.
Their actions are often characterized by kindness, compassion, and a deep respect for others.
So they're the ones that are working to uplift and empower others,
Yeah.
to create a more harmonious and loving world.
Exactly. While STS wanderers, even those who have chosen to serve the light, may still carry some remnants of their previous conditioning. They might be drawn to positions of power or influence.
Okay.
And their actions may sometimes reflect a desire to control or manipulate others, even if it's done with the intention of achieving a positive outcome.
So they might have good intentions, but their approach can be a bit more, well, forceful or controlling.
That's one way to put it. It's like they're still learning to balance their desire for control with the principles of love and free will.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many times in history, like seemingly well-intentioned leaders have actually been influenced by STS wanderers,
Right.
pushing agendas that ultimately serve their own desire for power rather than the true good of humanity.
It's a sobering thought, and one that highlights the importance of discernment and critical thinking.
Right.
We must always be mindful of the motivations behind the actions of those in positions of power, regardless of how noble their words may sound.
Okay, so that's a lot to consider about wanderers and their role in this kind of grand cosmic play. But I'm also curious about the bigger picture here. We've talked about the mechanics of social memory complexes, the role of wanderers, but what does all of this actually mean for the future of humanity? Is forming a social memory complex like our inevitable destiny, or is it just one possibility among many?
That's the big question, isn't it? And according to the law of one, there's no single predetermined outcome. The future is fluid.
Okay.
It's shaped by the choices we make,
Right.
both individually and collectively.
So free will is still the driving force.
Absolutely. We have the power to choose our path,
Yeah.
to decide what kind of future we want to create. We can choose to embrace unity, love, and cooperation, or we can continue down the path of separation, fear, and conflict.
Those are two very different paths.
Yes.
With very different outcomes. But I'm also wondering, like, how does forming a social memory complex actually change things on a practical level?
Right.
What would life be like within a unified collective consciousness? Would we still have, like, individual identities?
Yeah.
Would we still experience emotions? Would we
Yeah.
even need a physical body?
These are all fascinating questions.
Yeah.
And the Law of One offers some intriguing insights into what life might be like. Within a social memory complex, it describes a state of heightened awareness, a profound sense of interconnectedness, a level of compassion and understanding that transcends our current limitations.
It sounds almost utopian,
Right.
but I can also imagine it being kind of disorienting,
Right.
to lose that sense of individuality,
Right.
to have your thoughts and feelings constantly intertwined with the thoughts and feelings of millions or billions of others.
It's definitely a shifting perspective,
Right.
a transcendence of the ego boundaries that we're so accustomed to in third density. But it's not about losing yourself.
Okay.
It's about expanding your sense of self to encompass a much larger whole.
So it's like zooming out from a close-up shot to a panoramic view, seeing the interconnectedness of everything rather than just the individual pieces.
That's a great analogy. And within this expanded view, individual expression still exists, but it's harmonized with the collective will. It's like a symphony where each instrument contributes its unique voice to create this, beautiful and unified whole.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about, like, the practicalities of everyday life? Would we still have jobs? Would we still have families? Would we even need money?
The details of daily life within a social memory complex are likely to vary,
Right.
depending on the specific nature of the complex and its level of evolution.
Hmm.
But the law of one suggests that the need for many of our current systems and structures would diminish as we evolve towards greater unity.
So things like money, government, and even like traditional family structures might become obsolete
Yeah.
as we learn to kind of share resources, make decisions collectively, and experience love and connection in a much broader sense.
Precisely. Imagine a world where everyone's needs are met, where conflict is resolved through understanding and compassion,
Right.
and where our collective energy is focused on exploring the universe and
Mhm.
expanding our consciousness.
Yeah. It's a vision of a future that's both inspiring and kind of challenging to grasp from our current perspective.
Mhm.
But I have to admit, it makes me wonder what role, if any, technology might play in this evolution toward a social memory complex.
Right.
Would we need to develop advanced technologies to facilitate this merging process? Or is it something that happens more organically through spiritual growth?
That's a question that the law of one doesn't explicitly address,
Okay.
but it does emphasize the importance of both spiritual and technological advancement for a balanced and harmonious evolution.
So it's not about choosing one over the other. It's about finding a way to integrate them in a way that supports our growth.
Exactly. Technology can be a powerful tool for connecting people, sharing information, expanding our understanding of the universe.
Right.
But it's essential to use it wisely, ethically, and in alignment with our spiritual values.
So it's not technology itself that's good or bad,
Yeah.
but rather how we choose to use it.
Precisely. Technology can either amplify our love and compassion,
Uh-huh.
or it can amplify our fear and greed. The choice is ours to make.
Right. Okay, so it's not just about merging minds.
Hmm.
It's about merging hearts. It's about creating a future where technology serves the higher good, where compassion guides our actions, and where we all recognize our interconnectedness as one vast cosmic family.
That's a beautiful vision, and one that I believe is within our reach. But achieving it requires us to make conscious choices, to embrace love over fear, and to dedicate ourselves to the path of service to others.
This has been a truly mind-expanding exploration of social memory complexes and the role of wanderers. We've covered a lot of ground, from the mechanics of merging, to the ethical considerations, to the potential implications for humanity's future. But before we wrap things up, one final question. If someone's listening to this and they're feeling inspired by this vision of unity,
Mm,
and they want to contribute to the collective awakening, like, where do they even begin?
that's a great question, and one that I believe has a simple yet profound answer. Start with yourself.
Okay. So it's back to that idea of inner transformation as a foundation for outer change.
Exactly. Cultivate self-awareness. Practice compassion and forgiveness. Seek to understand your own unique gifts
Right.
and how you can use them to serve the greater good.
So it's not about waiting for some grand cosmic event to trigger the merging process. It's about taking personal responsibility for our own evolution and trusting that our individual choices will contribute to the collective awakening.
Precisely. We're all interconnected. And every act of love, every choice for unity, every moment of compassion ripples outward, influencing the whole.
And that's a powerful reminder that, like, even seemingly small actions can have a significant impact.
Right.
But I also know that many people might feel kind of overwhelmed by the vastness of this cosmic journey, the complexities of social memory complexes, the idea of wanderers among us, the
Yeah.
responsibility we each carry for shaping the future. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling kind of lost or uncertain about their place in all of this?
I would say trust the process, embrace the journey. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know the exact path ahead. Simply focus on aligning your heart with love, your mind with truth, your actions with service, and the universe will conspire to guide you towards your highest potential.
That's a message of hope and empowerment that I think we can all resonate with. It's a reminder that even in the face of uncertainty and complexity, we can always choose to align ourselves with love and allow that love to guide our way.
Well said. And as we continue to explore these concepts, I encourage our listener to, delve deeper into the law of one material, to contemplate the wisdom it offers,
Yeah.
and to allow it to, spark their own unique journey of discovery and awakening.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, exploring the mechanics of social memory complexes,
Right.
the role of wanderers, and the potential implications for humanity's future. But I think what really stands out to me is this emphasis on personal responsibility.
Hmm.
The idea that we each have a role to play in this kind of grand cosmic evolution.
Exactly. It's not about waiting for some external force to save us or to initiate the merging process. It's about choosing to align ourselves with love and unity in our everyday lives, knowing that those choices are contributing to a brighter future for all.
Yeah, it's a powerful message of hope and empowerment, and one that I believe can guide us through the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I encourage our listener to kind of reflect on these ideas, to explore their own connection to the concept of social memory complexes,
Right.
and to consider how they can contribute to the collective awakening of humanity.
Beautifully said.
Hmm.
And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll delve into some of the more nuanced aspects of social memory complexes, exploring the different paths of evolution,
Right.
the challenges of integration,
Yeah.
and what it truly means to kind of transcend the limitations of individuality while still honoring the unique spark of selfhood
Right.
that resides within each of us.
So you're back. And I'm still kind of pondering those big questions,
Mhm.
about the future of humanity and what a social memory complex could actually mean for us.
It's certainly a fascinating concept to consider, especially as we, delve deeper into these nuances of how these complexes evolve and operate.
You mentioned earlier that there are different paths of evolution for social memory complexes, depending on whether they're aligned with service to others or service to self.
Right.
Can you kind of elaborate on that a bit? What are the key distinctions between those STO and STS complexes as they sort of progress through the densities?
Yeah. In essence, the core orientation of a social memory complex, whether it's STO or STS, shapes its entire evolutionary trajectory. So STO complexes, driven by love, compassion, that desire to serve the greater good,
Right.
they move towards ever-increasing levels of unity, harmony, and wisdom.
So it's like they're constantly expanding their circle of compassion, right?
Yeah.
Encompassing more and more beings within their sphere of love and understanding.
Precisely. As STO complexes evolve, their focus shifts from serving individuals to serving entire planetary systems, galaxies, and eventually, even the cosmos as a whole.
Wow. That's a pretty expansive vision of service. What about STS complexes, though? Do they also experience a kind of expansion as they evolve?
They do, but their expansion takes a different form. Remember, STS complexes, they're driven by power, control, that desire to dominate others.
Right.
And so as they evolve through the densities, they become increasingly adept at manipulating energy,
Okay.
influencing consciousness, controlling resources.
So it's like they're playing a cosmic game of chess,
Yeah,
strategically positioning themselves to gain the upper hand.
that's a good way to put it. Their focus is on expanding their sphere of influence, often through, these subtle forms of manipulation and control. And as they progress through the densities, their tactics become, you know, increasingly sophisticated and difficult to detect.
It's a bit unsettling to think about. So does this mean that there's this constant struggle between STO and SKS complexes throughout the universe?
Well, there are certainly instances of conflict and tension, as, evidenced by the historical interactions between the Confederation of Planets and the Orion Group.
Right.
But the Law of One suggests that ultimately both STO and STS complexes are serving a higher purpose.
Okay.
They're kind of playing their roles in this grand drama of cosmic evolution.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Hmm.
How can STS complexes, with their focus on power and control, be serving a higher purpose?
Well, remember, the Law of One emphasizes this principle of polarity, right? Light and darkness, good and evil, love and fear.
Right.
These are all expressions of the same fundamental energy, simply vibrating at different frequencies.
So it's like a cosmic balancing act, with STO and STS forces acting as counterpoints to each other.
Exactly. And through this interplay of opposites,
Yeah.
through the challenges and conflicts that arise, consciousness evolves.
Okay.
It's through overcoming obstacles, through learning from our mistakes, that
Right.
we grow and expand our understanding.
That makes sense. So even though STS complexes might seem like the bad guys, from our kind of limited perspective, they're actually playing a crucial role in the grand scheme of things.
Precisely. They provide the contrast, the resistance that allows us to define and refine our own values, to choose love over fear, and to consciously align ourselves with the path of service to others.
Okay, so that's the kind of cosmic perspective.
Right.
But I'm also curious about the more practical aspects of how social memory complexes operate.
Right.
We've talked about like merging consciousness and telepathic communication, but I'm wondering about the decision-making process. If you have millions or billions of minds linked together, how do you reach consensus? How do you avoid chaos and conflict within the complex itself?
Well, The law of one suggests that the decision-making process within a social memory complex is driven by a deep understanding of unity and harmony. Remember, these complexes, they've evolved beyond the limitations of individual egos.
Right.
They have this much broader perspective, a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things.
So it's like they're operating from a place of collective wisdom,
Right.
where the well-being of the whole takes precedence over individual desires.
Exactly. And because they have access to the thoughts, feelings, and memories of all members, they can consider multiple perspectives simultaneously,
Right.
arriving at decisions that are in the best interests of the complex as a whole.
It sounds incredibly efficient and harmonious,
Mm.
but I'm also wondering about those kind of individual sparks of selfhood that you mentioned earlier.
Right.
If everyone is so unified, is there any room for disagreement? What happens if someone has a different opinion or wants to go against the collective will?
Yeah, it's an important question, and one that highlights that delicate balance between unity and individuality within a social memory complex.
Okay.
While there is a strong sense of shared purpose and understanding, there is also room for individual expression and exploration.
So it's not like everyone is forced into like lockstep conformity.
Not at all. Think of it more like a diverse ecosystem where each organism plays its unique role while contributing to the overall health and balance of the system.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if someone really does want to go against the grain?
Yeah.
What if they have a strong dissenting opinion or want to pursue a path that's different from the collective?
Yeah, in such cases, the complex would likely engage in open communication and understanding, seeking to find a way to integrate the individual's perspective or to find a path that allows for both individual expression and collective harmony.
So it's about finding creative solutions
Right.
rather than resorting to like suppression or coercion.
Exactly. Remember, love and understanding, those are the guiding principles of STO social memory complexes.
Right.
So they would seek to find a win-win scenario, a solution that honors both the individual and the collective.
This is fascinating stuff. It makes me wonder if there are any lessons we can learn from social memory complexes, even though we're still in the early stages of our own evolution as a species.
Absolutely. I think the most important takeaway is the recognition that unity doesn't require uniformity.
Right.
We can embrace diversity, celebrate our unique perspectives, and still work together towards common goals.
It's a powerful message of hope and possibility.
Hmm.
And it makes me even more curious about what the future holds for humanity. Like if we can learn to harness the power of unity while still honoring our individuality, imagine what we could achieve.
The possibilities are truly limitless, but realizing those possibilities requires us to make conscious choices,
Right.
to cultivate love and understanding, to embrace the journey of evolution with open hearts and open minds.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the mechanics of social memory complexes.
Mhm.
I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on the nature of consciousness, the potential of human evolution, and the interconnectedness of all things.
Well, it's been a pleasure exploring these concepts with you.
Yeah, it's been great.
And for our listener, I hope this deep dive has sparked a sense of wonder and possibility. Remember, that journey of evolution, it's ongoing, and each of us plays a role in shaping the future.
So let's choose love, embrace unity, and continue to explore the mysteries of consciousness together. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive.